Someone once said the highest amount of talent is found in the graveyard. And that is because many people never really reach their potential. So, what are the kinds of things that hold people back? One of them is perfectionism, the desire to be perfect, or the desire to have what you produce, what you create to be perfect. This holds so many people down, and it's like an invisible force. It's not always clear why someone is procrastinating, why someone is self-sabotaging, but sometimes the reason is perfectionism. Some people fear even taking the first step because they fear that when they take the first step, it will not be perfect. And the main issue here is the fact that they see that product or that goal, that how it comes out, whether it comes out perfectly or imperfectly, is a representation of them. That is the main issue. Having your sense of self defined by how perfectly that thing was achieved, or how perfectly your creation was done. The problem is, many times in the beginning or even midway, things are rarely perfect. People who are good at their craft or good at what they do, it took a lot of trial and error, constantly showing up. Many times in the beginning, they were very imperfect. Most people start out imperfectly. But when you have this issue with perfectionism, it can make you procrastinate because you feel like what you do has to be perfect, even from the start. Because when it's not, you feel like you're unworthy, you're imperfect. And of course, this stems in childhood. Being raised in an environment where the guardians around you, the teachers, the parents around you, maybe your peers, but rarely just the parents and the teachers, were extremely critical and had extremely high expectations. And they didn't validate you unless you met those said expectations. In short, you are not seen unless you met those particular standards. And of course, this is extremely harmful because it deprives the child, and it deprives you, even as a grown-up later, of a sense of self. Your sense of self is built in, a lot of it is built in childhood, when you are validated, when you are allowed to have your opinions and your thoughts about things and your feelings about things, and when you also have someone mirror what you're feeling back to you or what you're thinking back to you. But often in these intense environments, what the child feels or thinks or is not important. The child is basically unseen, and all that is important is the image the adult wants them to have of themselves. So if you reach that goal, or if you reach that ideal or that behavior, or create that product the adults, the teachers, the parents want, then you get validated. And you get validated when it's perfectly according to what they desire. So this, of course, leads to a disconnection and of with yourself, because you only see yourself through how perfect you should, how well you do things. That's when you feel validated. That's when you self-validate. So in adulthood, you are alienated from yourself. And that's why people with these high standards of perfectionism are often struggling with anxiety and sometimes depression. If there's that disconnection from yourself, if you feel unworthy because you can't do things perfectly at the start, or even whenever something goes wrong, you blame yourself because you feel like you have to do things perfectly, then there's a hollowness inside, because you should feel worthy whether or not you accomplished whatever you were doing or not, whether or not it came out right or not, whether or not you're able to see the variables earlier and prevent them or not. So perfectionism robs you of yourself. But many of you know that. Now the issue is, how do you break the pattern? You break the pattern by learning how to self-validate a lot. by learning how to reassure yourself and your worth as often as possible, by redefining yourself in a way that is not reliant on how well your actions have created perfectionism or not. You need to validate yourself for your efforts and not necessarily the results of your efforts. Because you'd see some perfectionists are the hardest workers, but they are hard on themselves. They rarely validate themselves on the efforts, on all the things they did. All they see is the end product and how imperfect it is. So you need to learn to validate yourself based on your effort, based on how much you put into it. And as you analyze the situation, what went wrong and how you can improve it, you need to also validate yourself on the fact that you were able to come to those insights so that you can have more energy to move forward. When you're validating yourself, you have more energy because you feel more exuberant and more happy. You feel warm inside because you remember what you've done. But when you are hard on yourself, then you get low and you might even lose energy to proceed. And that's why sometimes perfectionists, they're always procrastinating and they self-sabotage. They self-sabotage because they feel unworthy. Why do they feel unworthy? Because they're hard on themselves. They're repeating the critical voice of that parent, of that teacher, of those peers. So you kill that negative voice. You destroy it by reinforcing by being positive towards yourself, by reinforcing positivity towards yourself as often as possible. Then the negative voice diminishes. And this also applies to the perfectionism in regard to pleasing others, because again, the environment I mentioned during childhood, that too can contribute to feeling like you have to present a perfect image for others in the society. That if the image is perfect according to what they deem perfect, then you're perfect, which is incorrect, because this is also another case of self-alienation, of being detached from who you are, because you're busy chasing validation from others and trying to look perfect, trying to look like an image, instead of embodying your true self and living from your true self. Okay, so when you cannot present the right image according to what society wants or according to what the people you're trying to please want, then feelings of worthlessness resume. Because you can't always present the perfect image. Presenting an image takes work. At the same time, what if you present an image you think would be perfect, but they still don't validate you? What happens then? So it's a very harmful cycle, and it's not a cycle that is worth it. The best way is to self-validate. The best way is to work on how you talk to yourself. The best way is to remain positive towards yourself. That is how you overcome perfectionism and the kind of horrible things that result from perfectionism, such as self-sabotage and procrastination and evading your dreams. So guys, thanks for watching, and tune in for next time when I'll do another video on mental health or another topic. Bye.